the Wright Township Board of Elected Auditors meeting for January 3rd, 2004. Is there any citizen participation?
Sure, I'll speak.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I have two items to bring up. One is about the full-time employee for supervisor pay that's on the agenda.
Okay.
So comment being, when deciding a full-time supervisor's pay, you should be asking yourself, what is the current pay and benefits for that supervisor / full-time employee, and what are residents getting with it? What we are getting with this employee of over 20 years who's serving as both right now, in the past, training certificates, he's completed only 3 different trainings. Chipper safety in 2003, flagger training in 2013, and the dirt and gravel roads training, which was 2015. That is all that was provided in completed training, when a right to know request was made. So 3 trainings. Also, just recently, the road crews installed a sign that looks like that on the right, which is completely incorrect, as you can see, what it's supposed to look like on the left. So that's what you're getting with the 20-year person as supervisor and an employee. Also, I wondered, do you know what the current compensation is for that employee? And how does that compare to others in the county? You also have to factor in retirement with that pay because they're guaranteed a pension. Most of us in the private sector have to support our own. And know that your decisions, whatever you decide on what pay is, not only affect now, but also residents in the future, as the guaranteed nature of the pension is based on the pay of that supervisor. As always, note that benefits for insurance costs and employees, they barely pay anything into either one of those. So, all right, and then the second thing that I brought up last year is pay in lieu of benefits issue. So, in early 2023, last year, I put in a right to know request for the pay in lieu of documentation and documentation associated with payment to employees. The response that I got back was there was no documentation of approval. There was a check payment after appeal to the Office of Open Records. There was a check payment, but no documentation was provided about what that check payment was. The Office of Open Records, even in their decision that they made, even noted that no documentation was provided for that check. This year in March, a auditor's spouse, who's the supervisor chair, decided to try and ratify the past payment in lieu of benefits back to 2016. So if that isn't questionable, like, something's up back to 2016 with these payments, that should trigger something. And then, in the past, last year, some people decided to say, oh, there's nothing to investigate. So, there are 3 auditors here that have 3 separate opinions. And you can investigate it yourselves kind of thing. It should be something that should be investigated, beyond what our auditors, where all they do is check minute little things compared to what actually could be wrong. So I just wanted to make those comments, employee supervisor pay in lieu of. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Okay, I'd like to vote to add an item to the agenda. I'd like to add to the agenda approval of the minutes of our January 4th meeting of 2003. I make a motion to add this item to our agenda. All those in favor?
Aye. Well, we need a second.
Okay. Thanks, Sally. Okay, so I'd like to make the motion to approve the meeting minutes of the January 4th of 2023. I think we should get this a second. All in favor? Just to mention that we've already reviewed these meeting minutes before, so there's no reason to go over them right now. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that ends our 2023 year. So for reorganization purposes, I'd like to make a motion to elect or approve, select a recording secretary. Sorry, there's two secretaries,
Right.
For as secretary recording secretary and timekeeper. I'd like to make a motion for Vicky. If she, so all in favor of Vicky being the recording secretary and timekeeper? Okay. I'd like to,
Make a motion for Kathy, our auditor chair.
I'll second it.
all in favor? I guess I can't vote because.
Can't abstain.
Yeah.
That would be
Okay.
a cleaner way to do it,
Okay.
even though you really don't get compensated, but.
Yeah, I would, like to make a motion to select, Deb Lucas, as secretary for preparing the audit confirmations. All in favor?
That's okay, Jim does the same thing.
Okay, so Kathy will be the, chair, Vicky will continue to do time and do the, recording secretary, and Deb Lucas will do the audit confirmations. Thanks, ladies. Okay, now we will vote on the supervisor's wages, okay, for, first, for supervisors that are not full-time employees, that perform work, part-time and occasionally as needed. Last year, the dollar amount was $14 an hour. I recommend that we raise that to $15 an hour with the economy the way it's going. I just felt 14 was adequate, but I don't feel like jumping it to what the current salaries are at this point. So I make a motion that we raise that to $15 an hour.
I just wanna say, we didn't even really use that last year.
Well, so there's that. Okay.
Yeah, I think even though we didn't use it, I think that's, okay, we didn't use it, and I don't think that's really.
The only person that
decision.
probably that would be Sean,
Mhm.
and he, for whatever reason, wasn't available for the cleanups, and that's normally what this falls under. And let's say there would be some situation where a supervisor would have to, come in and direct traffic that's, probably some emergency or next to an important
Right,
situation. That would be the only thing I foresee.
Yeah, and also keeping in mind too that we're voting this for the whole year, so things could change throughout the year.
They
Supervisor-
could.
A supervisor
They could.
could leave, somebody
That's
could come
right.
in and they want
That's
to.
absolutely right, you
so.
never know.
Right, yeah, so, go ahead, Tim.
Well, we raised it last year. I forget the amount we raised it from. Yeah,
Something like.
12, I think so.
I don't know why I had in my head that
We
we raised it to 15.
Yeah, that was 14, I think it was 14. And I think 14 is too low myself, but I think that we had such a large raise last year that we need to be cognizant of.
Budget.
I sort of feel mixed on that. 15 is not enough, just in general.
Yeah.
But a jump, jump last year, I think.
Okay, we can keep it at 14 too.
What if we did 1450? What's your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I think
It's a smaller increase,
it's a
but
small
it's getting
increase.
them closer to what reality is
Yeah.
without putting up as much of a strain.
Would you like to make a motion?
Make a motion to increase the supervisor's wage when performing part-time, occasional, and as-needed work to $14.50. So increasing at 50 cents an hour.
I will second that.
All in favor?
No.
Okay. We will now vote on supervisors' wages who are regular, full-time employees of the township. After discussion with the solicitor, regarding, there is no contract at this point. The employees have not indicated that they will be joining a union, but that could take place within the next month or so. Assuming probably within the next couple of weeks that could happen. So with that said, I'm proposing a range of dollars for supervisors as full-time employees being $22 to $27, pending any contract or union joining by the employees. That range would fall within, specifically, Brad is the only one at this point, but again, that could change, so doing this isn't just strictly for Brad, it could be for anybody, you know, another supervisor could become an employee, you know what I'm saying? So that dollar amount would be within the range of only a 3% range, if any raises are given to the employees for 2024. It would be the highest wage of what Brad was receiving plus 3%. That is the high end of the range. The low end of the range is comparable to what Johnny, who is a full-time employee, is making. So I made that range from 22 to 27. And again, I did discuss this with the solicitor. He said that that would be proper to do it that way.
So you're saying that would be like a 3%?
Correct.
Which is what we.
And last year when
did
we
a little
voted
more
on it,
than that.
we had hold on a second. Last year, we had a referendum that we voted on, as you recall. And it listed all of that information. So,
They were kind of in limbo, because there's no agreement signed, there's nothing, it's supposed to be done by the January meeting, is what I understand.
anyway, I make a motion to set the range for full-time supervisor employees of between $22 and $27.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah.
So that, the solicitor said that was a range that we could go with.
Yes,
This
yes,
okay.
yes. Okay, before we vote, John,
Yeah, I was wondering, what is the current rate that Brad was getting last year?
hold on a second.
You have that.
Yes.
Do you guys know that?
Pardon me?
I was wondering if they know it too.
Okay, it's $25.37.
Okay, so at 3% increase, what would that be?
$26.13.
So you're gonna make it up to 27 with a 3%.
Correct. Well,
So that would be even more than,
Okay.
why wouldn't you, you do what you want to help out your folks, so yeah, I know.
I'm just doing it as a range, okay? I'm not,
You're not saying 27 plus 3%.
Correct.
You're saying 3%.
Right, and I got that,
Okay.
but that would be 2613 if you add,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm just kind of,
It-
it's more than rounding, but it's
An estimate?
an estimate.
Well,
Not really an
But-
estimate, no, it's 3% would be $26.13.
What
4% would be $26.38.
what justification do you have for a 3% raise that you're estimating? What, I know in my job, and probably most people's job, when you get a raise, it's justified by increased responsibility, increased knowledge through training, anything like that. I don't just get it because cost of living. And plus 3% normally isn't cost of living until like this past year. But they've been getting 3-4% for multiple years when cost of living was like 0.1%. So I'm trying to figure out,
Well,
why is 3% always what we like to guarantee?
okay,
So,
cost of living.
Can you justify a 3%?
Well, cost of living has gone up, John, if you've been listening to
This year, this past year.
Yes, and also, I did some research on PA work stats, and that dollar amount, those dollar amounts are well within the range, let me speak please. And also, the state of Pennsylvania has increased their employees substantially more than what 3% would be.
Well, first
So-
off, they probably require them to do work.
Okay.
Second off,
That's not our
hold-
position to determine every single tiny thing that they do.
Right,
Okay,
I
just go.
understand. You don't determine what work they do, but you determine what their compensation is if they're a supervisor, which he is. The idea being that the auditors decide that instead of the supervisors because he is a supervisor, and you're not supposed to have conflicts of interest. You're supposed to have which you do have a conflict because your husband is a supervisor, but that's acceptable. I know, because there's two other people that have a vote here. You're saying this is what the solicitor says. They don't ever hear this. They don't ever get to see that. It's once again control. But my thing is what are the residents getting for this payment? You see a sign that's installed completely incorrectly. What are we getting? What training has he done? What responsibility has he
I think
got?
what's happening is, John, that you're confusing your opinion of every single thing that Brad does that you consider not correct or not because it's the way you want it to be, because John Schulze is the, end-all be-all of
That's all you've
everything,
got on me
okay?
is I don't like it.
That is correct, John. You really have a habit of coming to these meetings, expressing your opinion. Maybe this is one
That's
thing
because
you-
no one else can come.
Okay, why can no one else come?
Because
Okay.
they've come in the past and they get yelled at, screamed at by other people
Okay.
here.
That's-
So,
get
I don't
it.
blame
I have to object there, as far as the auditors meeting. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
think
the
we've ever
auditors isn't a
screamed at
problem.
anyone.
No one
So,
ever comes, so.
You know, people
I know.
can come and voice
For you
their
guys, yeah.
opinion, and I appreciate your input on
Mhm.
things. It would be nice to see a little bit of positivity here and there, but, I mean, it is what it is. So you have
when
the
that's
right to
done-
come, and so does everyone
Mhm.
else.
And I agree,
We
but
welcome
when that's
that.
done, with 20 years of experience, when that's done, it makes you start questioning. So, that's all I'm saying is,
Thank you for
what are
your
we
comment.
getting?
Okay, thank you for your comment. Okay, I make a motion to, vote on the supervisor's wages that are regular full-time employees at the township from a range between $22 and $27.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
Just a note, when I figured out the other increase that we gave, it is over 3%,
Okay.
the 50 cents. So
Okay.
we're within guidelines on both.
Okay,
Right.
perfect, thank you. Okay, with that done, we have to select the property tax parcels and, okay, we'll put on timing here. Select the property tax parcels at random for mailing confirmations for tax collector audit. We can
There's
do
the
that.
duplicate
And we also have to determine the date for the audit/review of tax collector. I was gonna call Becky, but I didn't get a chance to. I think I mentioned to you ladies, I had some surgery, so I just was under the weather, let's just say. So I'll contact her today and determine if we can get some dates, but we can, okay. We normally do it in February. Anyway, just with that said, we're gonna select the, we don't have to vote on any of these things, so.
There's 35, correct?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
I'm gonna get the envelopes ready for you
Okay,
guys.
we're still using, what's it, the, Smith Elliott.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just gonna look. Oh, I never said, okay, thanks. Okay, I'll look up some dates in February. Yeah, possibilities, let's just say.
No, it doesn't.
Here's, 30 paid and 5
35,
done.
35 total, 33 and 5, not 8.
Never done this
Yeah,
before,
you
so I
can.
see one that doesn't have, can that be the
Yeah, what I would
non-paid?
do is just go through it, put them down, I won't look at the.
Yeah, I don't, don't look at
No, we do have to make sure we have 5, not paid.
Right, so is that considered a not pay? Because there's nothing written in there?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, that's correct right there.
So I'm gonna nab those as I see them.
Yeah, that'd be good for me with this. Pink color.
Yeah. There's
Oh, that's
It's
fine.
count, it's like, I'll count them again, closer time.
Oh, I'm just trying to get hold of Becky to see if she can give us some dates.
I also have to give Rebecca a call, the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can call her.
Oh, do you want to just do that then when you call her? Ask her what dates or what?
Well, yeah, why don't you,
Okay.
you and do that, I can call her, because we all have to, know the dates, whereas the signature's just her and I.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be a little bit, yeah.
So I better stop and count where I'm at.
Can you help me?
Okay, thank you.
Eighteen.
I need two more.
18, no, we need 12 now.
Oh, 12 more.
We're getting 35.
It is.
Just go back home. I was interested to see the return rate on them.
Yeah, we had a pretty good return rate last year.
Yeah, it was.
And the year before.
I think we always have.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
higher even than what, a lot of the. returns are.
Okay, let's count them. I think that was 12, but I'm yapping too, so.
5,
Yeah,
okay, good, okay, great. Okay, I was looking at the calendar and I did, send a, email to Becky. And we just gave her 3 possible dates, they would suit her, right? Okay, so today's the 4th, and, I indicated to her that we could meet on February 3rd, 10th, or 17th, which are dates comparable to what we've done in the
Yeah.
past. So I did, depending on when you can get the confirmations prepared and her signed and out, what,
I'll have them done,
okay,
probably out Tuesday.
Okay.
They'll get out Monday, maybe, I'll get them out Monday or Tuesday.
So they would go out on
The
the,
8th for the night.
okay, so we'll say
I'll
January.
drop them the 8th.
Okay.
I'll probably go on the 8th.
so we usually give them 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then we add a day because of the holiday,
Oh,
If I
yeah, that's
remember right.
true, yep, yep.
so January 23rd.
June's birthday.
For the return.
Okay, so have them returned by the 23rd.
Yeah, let's, with that, can we, I guess the 23rd's fine. I'm just thinking if somebody mails it on Monday, and they say, oh, it's not gonna make it in time.
Well, we could add a couple extra days,
Okay.
we could do that, yeah,
Okay.
especially if we're not gonna meet
I'm
until the
seeing what's
3rd.
the date to
Yeah.
put on
Yeah.
the letter. Okay.
Do you wanna go with the 26th, that's a Friday?
Yeah,
Is it-
let's go with the 24th and 25th. Because that means if they drop it Monday or Tuesday,
Mhm.
I'll get there in 2 days.
Yep, yep.
And,
25th?
sure, let's go with the 25th.
Yeah, that's perfect, 'cause
And then we'll meet,
okay, and then, when I hear back from Becky, then we can meet, like I said, the 3rd,
okay.
10th or 17th. Okay, I should have checked with you ladies first before we sent that. Do those dates work for you?
They should be
What's
fine.
the 3rd, 10th, or 17th?
Yes, okay.
They'll make them work.
Okay. And, 9 o'clock, I think that's when we normally met.
We did 8,
I think we
30
did
and-
8:30.
Oh, yeah, we do
Open,
8:30 to open them,
and then
okay.
9 with.
Yeah,
with
perfect,
Becky.
okay. Just so I let her know that it's 9, she doesn't have to show up half an hour to watch us open anyway, so, okay.
And your phone numbers, if you can check your phone numbers to go out on the letter.
Yep, that's me.
Okay, well, with that said, make a motion.
Yeah, I just had a question. So if they don't join a union, or even if they do, so you guys really aren't determining what the pay is, the compensation for an employee supervisor, right? That's pretty much what you said. It's in
Well,
between here and here, and
the thing
they,
is,
the supervisors would
We're
determine.
talking to the attorney, we have to consider if they join a union, that takes precedence over what we would do. I mean, a contract with the union, we couldn't say to the union, hey, you can't negotiate that because we have already set the wage.
So I'm just trying to figure it out because he's a supervisor. The pay is based on
Okay, you have to
unions,
keep it,
right?
you have to think about it.
I'm just
this
wondering.
way, John.
I don't understand it. That's why I'm trying to
Okay,
understand the precedent.
You have to think about, take away that, he's a supervisor. Okay,
But-
just
but
look at
he
the
is.
employee. I know, but when you're thinking about the pay and how those things work as far as an employee are concerned, you have to take away the supervisorship. You have to say, he's an employee of the township. And if there's a contract with a, union, okay, we cannot set the wage for the employee part of it.
So who would question the wage of the union?
Say
The
again.
supervisors would,
Well-
right? They would do the
Whoever-
contract negotiations,
Whoever
I
would
guess,
do
right?
negotiations would have to, determine.
Right, which is
That's my
supervisors, which
understanding.
is him.
Well, he would have to abstain from that.
Right, but-
Well,
I'm just, it baffles my mind that,
because
The
they
law-
wouldn't be, he wouldn't be voting for his job as a supervisor, he would be voting on his job as an employee. Okay, so he'd have to abstain because of that. But you
Right.
still have to keep those two separate when you're just thinking about an employee. There's a lot involved with HR and certain,
Right.
restrictions and
And-
stuff. As an employee, as a supervisor, it's different. It's just that there's there's no direct guidance in the law either.
And what would be the issue, what would happen if there was 2 employees as supervisors? Then,
I don't know.
that's why I'm saying, I think it's pretty much still your guys' choice. I mean, it's weird that it goes back to the supervisors. Once again, it goes back to them instead of you guys choosing. It's like when the contract, you're just like,
Well, I think
Go with the
when
contract.
this first
so,
came about, it was.
you
a
guys
thing
never
that-
choose, that's the
Okay.
thing, is
Well,
you guys
I
aren't
think when this
choosing.
first came about, even in the statute, it doesn't say if a supervisor is a full-time employee, this changes the game. It doesn't give much guidance there. So you kind of have to not make up what you want to do, you just have to kind of go with reasonableness, you know, maybe talk to a solicitor, that kind of thing. So, and again, those ordinance, or not ordinances, but those statutes are so old that you really need to update them to maybe accommodate something like that.
It all became muddied when he
It's a
became
difficult
supervisor.
decision. Pardon
It
me?
all became muddied when he became supervisor.
Wow,
So.
I'm not gonna.
I know he's legally allowed to,
I know.
but that's when it happened,
I'm
so.
not gonna respond to that, so.
Yeah, and just so you know, it looks like raising to the $27 an hour amount is a 6.5% jump.
Well, that was the range,
Right.
but I'm going
But
off
he-
of what she's saying, that it would be 3%. And I think they did the range so that if another person would be in that situation, that you had that
Right,
range.
correct.
Okay,
Okay, so,
My understanding is a 3% increase.
okay,
right. For that particular person would be
Person,
3% max for him, is what you're saying.
That's my understanding.
Is that what if it's him personally, if you're assuming a 3% max, it'd be up to 27 if it was somebody else.
well, I'm not gonna entertain that, I'm just saying we're going with a range.
Go with range, because we don't know what it's going to be at this point in time. It's kind of a dart on the board, depending on, we're not negotiating a contract.
If there is one,
If there is one.
which no comment. Anyway. Who knows?
I was curious where this was.
That's on Lamb's Gap.
So where is that hard, I'm just curious where that hard left is.
That's past what was always considered the last house on Lamb's Gap Road as you're going south. Where Brad said somebody ran over the sign. It used to be a completely mildew-covered sign, right before you get to the turnoffs, before you start.
I'm just curious,
Yep.
and again, that kind of stuff is out of our jurisdiction,
Oh.
if you will, you know what I mean? I mean,
Right,
we
but
don't- we
You're
don't-
setting the rate
Yeah,
based
we
on
don't-
expertise, knowledge, and what the residents are
Right,
getting.
Right, we don't entertain people's job description as
Mhm.
far as, okay, or, I don't
Well,
really.
you're to take into account what their job description is to
But
base it
we
on
don't-
the rate.
Yeah, but we don't say, I don't go out and say, John,
No.
you know, or whoever, you put that sign up on,
No,
and that's out of my jurisdiction.
no, but that's where it gets muddy because he is the supervisor that would reprimand himself to say that would be incorrect or to tell himself that's incorrect.
Well,
So,
then I-
expertise level. You know that doesn't look right. If you
Well,
drove
I
by
don't
it, you
have to
wouldn't
possess
think that's
that,
right.
But again, that's out of our jurisdiction.
As an auditor, yes, but as a,
And again, you have to think about it this way too, is just because we're setting this, we can't always say, because it's this particular person. Okay, when we set these rules up, they have to be for anybody that could be included in that position.
well, you could always have another meeting. That's what you did back when he became supervisor in, was it June, you had a meeting and set the rates? So if somebody else came on, you just do another meeting. Am I correct on that? You're setting it for now, but if you had somebody
No, I don't
else.
think, I'd have to think about that, I'm not sure if we would, because we are setting the range, we would have to have another meeting. The reason we had that meeting was because we never had that circumstance before, we never had that circumstance.
Yeah, for right now.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
So, we officially adjourn. Okay, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting of the Wright Township Supervisors,
I'll second that.
or auditors, sorry. We're talking supervisors.
I will second,
Okay, thank you.
okay, I'll second the auditors.
Okay.